Hey Euro babes, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to my channel. You're entering the Cal Zone, and today I want to talk about some new bombshell information that has come out regarding the behind the scenes drama at Eurovision this year. I do want to start out by saying that the sources I'm going to be using are unconfirmed, so take everything here with a slight grain of salt, but if what is being said here is true, which we may never know for sure, it exposes what really happened behind the scenes with some of the vocally anti-Israel participants, namely Bambie Thug, and that the narrative surrounding the Israeli delegation wasn't necessarily based in reality, and a fake narrative was constructed to make them look worse than they actually are. Some of this information is damning if it's true, and I'm going to show you actual video clips that prove that what was alleged by Bambie Thug was likely wildly exaggerated. Now, you may be asking, Cal, why even report on this if the sources are not confirmed? That's a reasonable question, and here's what I would say to that. I think it's important for this information to get out there. I'm not telling you whether to believe it or not. I'm providing the information, and you can make up your mind if you think it's credible or not. I think it is credible, but that's just my opinion. Even though I am pro-Israel, I make no bones about that. I'm presenting this information in an unbiased way, so you can make your own conclusions. Plus, I'd be willing to bet a lot of money that no mainstream Eurovision YouTuber is going to cover this because, well, it doesn't really fit the narrative that they run with, so I'm going to be doing it instead. I'm also going to be discussing Bambie Thug at the end of the video, as Bambi was really the one who instigated this entire situation. I've already made my opinions on Bambi crystal clear in my first video, a brutally honest review of Eurovision 2024, which I did get some hate for. That's okay, I don't care. But my opinions have really only been reinforced, so I'm also going to talk about that. Before I discuss the new information, I have to remind you guys of the backstory. So most of this drama was incited by Bambie Thug from Ireland. You all should know this at this point. Bambi accused the Israeli delegation of filming her without permission. I'll talk about how ridiculous that is shortly. She accused the Israeli broadcaster Khan, I don't know how to pronounce it, okay? She accused the Israeli broadcaster, however you say it, of breaking rules, which didn't really result in anything, likely because it either wasn't true or was exaggerated, or the EBU didn't really care that much, let's be honest. People criticized the Israeli commentators for certain comments. I'll put them on screen. They made about a few different people. I'm not going to provide an opinion on that, but I did touch on it briefly in my first video, so go watch that if you want to. The Israeli delegation was accused of harassing artists. There is a video here of someone who is said to be an Israeli news anchor recording members of the Dutch team, even after a security guard asked them to stop, and that's according to Weebly Blogs. I don't know if that specific news anchor was a part of the Israeli delegation or not. I don't know that. I don't have that information, but regardless, I don't really think his behavior was acceptable. Let's now get into the new information, the stuff that you guys are interested in. I'm going to start with this video that was posted by Waxy Bumhole on Twitter. Yes, that is a real account. Here you can see a video of the participants backstage or wherever they were before the grand final flag parade rehearsal. And in this video, you see what looks to be a member of the Israeli delegation filming Ed Golan standing alone, and a group that appears to include Bambi, Nemo, Marina Sati, Yolanda, and members of Gote are standing no more than a meter or two away, refusing to acknowledge Eden's presence. This seems like a fairly innocuous video, right? Well, according to an insider source who was there, I'll get to them shortly, this is the video that sparked the controversy that the Israeli team was filming participants without their consent. And because of this video, a bunch of these people in the video, the Nemos of the world, the Nemos, the Bambis, the Yolandas, those people, okay, they threatened not to perform and didn't appear in the flag parade rehearsal. This is the video. That's it. This is it. Here's another video where a member of the Slovenian delegation is filming Raven backstage, walking with Bambi without Bambi's permission, but guess what? You didn't hear Bambi complaining about this, now did you? So Bambi, why is it a problem when the Israeli team films a video with their artist in it, in which you happen to be in, but it's not a problem when the Slovenian delegation does the exact same thing? We all know the answer to that question, let's be real. Also, the idea that people can't film you without permission is laughable. We live in an era where people film everything. This is Eurovision, babe. 160 million people watch this event. You think people can't film you? Ridiculous. You signed up for this, babe. Okay, let's now move on to the source that I was talking about. And this is from a thread courtesy of Calm Eurofan on Twitter. Great account. You should go follow. I'm going to read this thread. I think it's important. And again, this is from Calm Eurofan, not me. Quote, I spoke to someone who is backstage in Malmo. He was not in the press center. He was a part of another team. I'm keeping his identity protected for obvious reasons, but I wanted to clarify he was not accredited fan media or any other media. Here's what he told me. Full disclosure, this source is not pro-Israel. He made it very clear to me that he was neutral on Israel being in the contest. He is merely an employee of a company that provided some of the backstage staff. He was, however, angry that the week had been overshadowed by not just the protests, but by people with an agenda deliberately stirring up trouble and aggravating an already difficult situation. I took some notes with his consent first. Essentially, the clip that is going around is indeed the clip. That's the video of Eden I just showed you. Bambi had been by far the most vocal against Israel, but had agreed with their delegation and the EBU to keep the week positive and politics free. Marina was the same, but less vocal, and the Greek head of delegation was keen to keep her away from Bambi, as apparently every time the artists met during rehearsals, Bambi had a reputation for stirring the pot and encouraging others to report the Israeli team for very random things. He did not elaborate on this. Bambi broke this agreement to keep it non-political when she decided to write Free Palestine in Ogham script on her face. The EBU were furious with her. The Irish delegation are actually under their own investigation, as some delegation members were rude to the staff who had to tell Bambi to remove the writing. As the results of semifinal 2 came in, the news quickly reached backstage that Israel had stormed the televote in Italy, and a number of the acts were very angry about it. Marina is reported to have said, quote, "What the fuck is the point of performing at all if they already won?" End quote. This was after the press conference where she was rude. Yost being disqualified changed everything. There was anger everywhere. We knew this anyway. It all kicked off in the line for the flag parade when Israel started to film the artists. My source wasn't sure if any other delegations were doing the same. Apparently, most artists did not care. Some just avoided it, but Bambi and Marina screamed at them. Marina, in particular, was actually abusive. According to my source, people backstage all felt Bambi was the most divisive and determined to cause trouble, but Marina is a lot more vocal and rude than people realize. Side note, he wanted me to mention that the following people were a joy to work with and made the experience amazing. Nemo, Baby Lasagna, Colleen, Dons, Saba, and Natalia Barbu. He said Yost seemed fine, but the guy who was dressed as a duck was vile. So that's the thread. I personally think that information is credible. I'll let you guys make that determination for yourselves and what you think. I'm going to touch on another tweet here shortly, but I want to include this from one of my mutuals on Twitter. I'm going to keep this person anonymous. This message was in a private group chat. He spoke to a few people that were backstage at Eurovision, and this is what they told him. The Irish and Norwegian delegations actively conspired against Israel to create a list of other delegations and artists that would send false and made-up reports against the Israeli delegation specifically to get them disqualified. He said that Israel was aware of this and reported it to the EBU, and they are currently investigating. He also mentioned that he was told that the Dutch delegation was toxic and members of Jost's team were, quote, violent and unhappy, end quote. The EBU had supposedly received a few different complaints against the Dutch team, and Jost's incident against the camerawoman, which is still unresolved, I'm pretty sure, was the final straw. Again, you can believe or disbelieve this information if you want, but again, I think this is credible info. Now I'm going to read a tweet from Switzerland Calling, that's Eurovision News IL on Twitter. Just a heads up, this account is associated with Khan, however you say it, the Israeli broadcaster, but I still think this information is important. The original tweet is in Hebrew, and I tried my best to make the translation make sense. So here's what they say. Quote, the testimony that tells what really happened behind the scenes in Malmo. In the days when the affair returned to the headlines, a source who was present in the hall when the incident between the representatives of Ireland and Greece and the Israeli delegation was recorded in the dress rehearsal of the final. This is how he testified before at Hurricane EUR. That's Calm Eurofan, who relayed his testimony here. According to the source, the video segment that was published in which Eden is seen standing on the side holding the Israeli flag and waiting to on stage, when not far from her were the representatives of Ireland and Greece in the group along with other representatives, is the video that led to the mess behind the scenes. Before the contest week began, the representative of Ireland and the members of the Irish delegation agreed that the Eurovision experience would be positive and that they would not involve politics in what was happening in Malmo, a conclusion that was very quickly violated by the Irish representative, who came on stage during one of the rehearsals with the inscription "Free Palestine" in ancient Irish. The representatives of the EBU demanded that she remove it, which began to arouse her frustration with the EBU, such that after the competition was over, it led to her cursing the EBU out in a now infamous interview. The Irish representative was described as the most extreme and vocal towards Israel's participation in this year's competition, and the Greek delegation preferred that their representative, Marina Sati, stay away from her as much as possible. The reason? Bambi worked to encourage every artist she connected with to complain about almost everything related to the Israeli delegation. However, the Greek representative also had a significant part in fueling the fire behind the scenes. After the second semifinal ended, the news began to arrive that Israel swept the televoting in Italy, and the Greek representative said, "What's the point of showing up if they've already won?" The same representative who made faces while Eden spoke and yawned at the press conference that ended shortly before. The news of the disqualification of the representative of the Netherlands, Joost Klein, hours before the finals began, contributed to the anger and tension that existed behind the scenes anyway, which was reflected in the incident in question while the representatives of the countries were standing with the flags and preparing to go on stage. At this point, a member of the Israeli delegation, apparently the stylist Itay Bezaleli, hopefully I didn't butcher that too badly, I'm sorry if I did, began to photograph Eden waiting with the flag. And it is not clear if members of other delegations were also photographing their representatives or if he was the only one. And according to the description, artists who noticed that he was taking pictures simply ignored it. However, when the Irish representative noticed him filming, she immediately started screaming, and the Greek representative joined her, with the Greeks' behavior being described as particularly abusive. According to the source who is present behind the scenes, those who were there felt that the Irish representative was the most controversial and was determined to cause ruckus, but the Greek representative was much louder and brash, which surprised those present. The source also said that he was not in direct contact with Eden, he avoided it in order to remain neutral, but noticed that her dancers were very nice and cordial, and that one of them even became friends with the dancer of the Irish representative. One testimony tells the entire story, an ugly attempt to insinuate conspiracies about the Israeli delegation. Weeks after the final, the truth is becoming clear, end quote. So, that's the tweet. And that's all the new information that we have at this time. Whether you choose to believe it or not is not really what matters here. However, I think that this information is credible and something that should be taken seriously. There is a very real possibility that so many people were lied to and played like a fiddle. I now want to shift gears into talking about our good friend Bambie Thug. I could talk about Marina here too. She was obviously in on this plan as well, but I think Marina is not as important as Bambi, and Bambi is much more relevant to the overall story here. I talked about my opinions on Bambi at length in my first video. Go watch it if you want to hear them. That was an incredibly long section. I probably talked about her for 5 minutes, but this is a person who is clearly not well. This is someone who came into Eurovision with a very clear agenda, and she was going to do whatever it took to make that agenda a reality, regardless of if it was truthful or not. And it seems clear based on these sources. Again, you can choose to believe them or not. I think they're credible, but it seems clear based on the sources that what Bambi alleged happened is either not true or was grossly exaggerated. Now that the truth seems like it's coming out, you have nowhere to hide, Bambi. This is a person who will do anything for attention. This is clearly someone who is extremely narcissistic. And again, I do not think this person is mentally well. She admitted that she cried when Israel qualified. That's fucking pitiful. She had a mental breakdown in an interview after Eurovision. That's the classic fuck the EBU interview. And best of all, she has a video on Pornhub where she sticks a candle up her ass. That is not the behavior of a normal, well-adjusted human being. Bambi was also accused by an Australian artist called Gianni, I don't know how to say this, of stealing her art and her style for Eurovision. I'll let you be the judge of that. It looks pretty conclusive to me. This is also not new information. These Instagram stories were posted before Eurovision, but I guarantee that you have not heard about this until now. To this date, Bambi has never acknowledged this, she has not apologized, and she has given Gianni no credit for completely ripping off and stealing her art. So Bambi isn't just a liar and a disgusting anti-Semite, she's also a plagiarist. There's no defending this. This is stuff that ends careers, so Bambi cultists, you can try and defend this. Good luck, it's not gonna work. All right, folks, that's all I have for you today. If any new information comes out, I will be making a follow-up video, so stay tuned for that, maybe. Let me know your thoughts on all of these new developments. Do you think the information I provided is credible or not, and why? What are your thoughts on our good friend Bambie Thug, aka Linnea Lagerkvist, and her plagiarism and lies and everything else I talked about? Let me know in the comments. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at CalMilligan02 for some spicy commentary. I definitely don't hold back on Twitter. Thank you to Calm Eurofan for the very, very interesting thread, and thank you so much for watching. Until next time, peace.